You might think people just suddenly change the way they treat you. But honestly, that's usually not what happens. Most of the time, the shift is gradual. It happens through small moments, small reactions, small situations that seem unimportant at first. People quietly notice what affects you, what you tolerate, what you stay silent about. And over time, they build an understanding of how to deal with you. And the strange part is, most of us don't even realize it's happening while it's happening. And in this video, we'll be exposing 7 hidden ways people test your boundaries. And the last one is the one most people completely miss. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean everyone around you is secretly manipulative or trying to play games with you. A lot of these behaviors happen naturally. Human beings are constantly reading each other. We pay attention to reactions, energy, confidence, emotional patterns, and body language without even thinking about it. And whether we realize it or not, we slowly teach people what we're okay with through the little things we allow consistently. The first way is through small favors. And this one catches a lot of people because it seems harmless. Someone asks for a little favor, then another one, then another. And because you want to be helpful, understanding, or supportive, you say yes, even when you're tired, even when it inconveniences you, even when part of you doesn't really want to do it. A lot of kind people do this. They don't want to disappoint anyone. They don't want to seem selfish, so they constantly stretch themselves for other people while quietly ignoring their own needs. But over time, people start noticing something. They notice how easily you put your own comfort aside for everyone else. And sometimes, without meaning to, they start expecting access to your time, your energy, and your availability whenever they want it. Not because you're weak, but because you've trained yourself to ignore your own limits. And eventually, you begin feeling emotionally drained without fully understanding why. The second way is through jokes. You've probably experienced this before. Someone says something that feels slightly disrespectful, but then quickly hides it behind humor. And suddenly, you're stuck in that awkward moment where you're wondering, am I overreacting? Should I just laugh? Maybe it's not that serious. So you smile. You let it pass. You try to keep the atmosphere comfortable. But deep down, something still feels off. What people often don't realize is that moments like this quietly shape relationship dynamics over time. Because sometimes, people are paying attention to whether you defend yourself, laugh things off, or stay silent just to avoid tension. And when certain comments go unaddressed repeatedly, they slowly become normal. Not overnight. Slowly. That's usually how boundaries fade. Not through one huge moment, but through repeated small moments people convince themselves to ignore. The third way is through inconsistency. At first, someone is very present. They reply quickly. They give attention freely. They make you feel important, valued, and emotionally safe. Then one day, the energy changes. The replies slow down. The effort becomes inconsistent. You start feeling confused. And what makes this difficult is that many people immediately start blaming themselves. They start overthinking every interaction. Did I do something wrong? Why are they acting different? Was I too much? How do I fix this? And without realizing it, they begin chasing the connection instead of observing the shift calmly. More effort, more attention, more emotional energy. But sometimes, people are simply observing how dependent you become when consistency disappears. And this happens in friendships too, not just romantic relationships. Some people unconsciously test whether your mood, confidence, or emotional stability depends on the amount of attention they give you. The fourth way is through interruptions. This one is subtle but powerful. Someone talks over you, cuts you off mid-sentence, barely acknowledges your point before moving on. And many people instantly shrink in those moments, not because they have nothing to say, but because they don't want to seem difficult, dramatic, or confrontational. So they stay quiet. They tell themselves, it's not important enough to address. But over time, constantly giving away your space teaches people that your voice can be overlooked. And honestly, a lot of people have experienced this for years without fully realizing how much it affected their confidence, especially people who grew up feeling like they had to stay quiet to keep peace around them. Sometimes, that habit follows people into adulthood without them noticing. The fifth way is through last-minute changes. Plans suddenly shift. Promises get moved around. People become unreliable with your time. And of course, life happens sometimes. Nobody is perfect. But when it becomes a repeated pattern, it starts revealing something deeper. Because there are people who will continue disappointing you as long as they know you'll always adjust yourself around them. And a lot of us have done this before. We tell ourselves we're being understanding. But deep down, we know we're also afraid of seeming difficult if we speak up. So instead of expressing disappointment honestly, we stay flexible until resentment quietly builds inside us. The sixth way is through silence after crossing a line. Sometimes, someone says or does something that genuinely makes you uncomfortable. And afterward, nothing gets addressed. No conversation, no acknowledgement, just silence. And in those moments, many people convince themselves to ignore what they felt. Maybe to keep the peace. Maybe to avoid conflict. Maybe because they're afraid speaking up will push the person away. So they stay silent, even though something inside them knows the moment mattered. But silence can quietly become permission. And when people repeatedly see that certain behaviors don't get challenged, they often become more comfortable repeating them. This is why unspoken resentment builds in so many relationships. Not because boundaries were communicated and ignored, but because they were never communicated at all. The seventh way is emotional stability during uncomfortable moments. This is the one most people miss, because people pay very close attention to how you behave when things don't go your way. When you're frustrated, when you feel rejected, when something feels unfair, when emotions become intense. Do you completely lose yourself emotionally? Do you panic? Do you become reactive? Or do you stay grounded, even while feeling hurt? And this matters, because emotional stability changes the way people perceive you. Not perfection, not pretending not to care, just emotional steadiness. The ability to pause before reacting. The ability to stay connected to yourself, even during uncomfortable moments. And honestly, that's something many people spend years learning. Because most of us were never taught how to handle emotions in healthy ways. We were taught to suppress them, explode with them, or feel ashamed of them. Now, after hearing all of this, it's important to remember something. The goal is not to become cold, guarded, or suspicious of everyone around you. The goal is simply awareness. Because once you start noticing these patterns, you stop abandoning yourself in small moments just to keep everyone comfortable. You become more honest about what drains you, more honest about what hurts you, more honest about what you actually need. And strangely enough, that honesty often changes the way people treat you. Not because you became aggressive, but because you stopped quietly teaching people to overlook your boundaries. Now, I want you to really think about this. Have you ever looked back at a relationship, friendship, or situation and realized the disrespect didn't happen all at once? It started small. A few ignored comments. A few uncomfortable moments. A few times you stayed silent even though something didn't feel right. A lot of people have experienced that. And sometimes the hardest part is realizing you were slowly betraying your own feelings just to maintain connection with someone else. So I want to ask you, which of these hidden boundary tests have you personally experienced? And which one do you think people overlook the most? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. You never know who might read your story and finally recognize patterns they've been ignoring in their own life. And if this video resonated with you in any way, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more psychology content like this, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes becoming aware of these small patterns can completely change the way you move through relationships, conversations, and life itself.